Guitar players of my generation, I get it. I was born in 1982 also. You saw The Edge playing the guitar on a rooftop in downtown Los Angeles in 1987 and you freaked out. Although for me it was Eric Clapton, Stevie Ray Vaughan, and B.B. King. And by the time I'd been playing the guitar for about a year or two and was in the 5th grade in Mr. Riley's music building at Griffin Elementary, all the kids wanted me to play was Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. The main point I'd like to make in this video, though, is that we stand on the shoulders of giants. And before The Edge was a blip on the radar, Albert Lee was doing stuff like this, David Gilmour was doing stuff like this with Pink Floyd, Chet Atkins was doing stuff like this earlier on than any of them. And it's a way to play with the delay pedal, to fill in the missing notes, and create sounds that you just wouldn't get any other way. Great musicians have great time. In fact, if you have great time, maybe you don't need to be a virtuoso at all. There's a lot to be said for like John Lee Hooker. As soon as you plug your guitar into an echo pedal and you have a repetition of the note, that echo is going to fall somewhere, whether it's just a quick slap back like the early days of Sun Records, or a very calculated, deliberately rhythmic kind of repeat. The echo has to fall somewhere. I think the first use of this that I'm aware of, and I'm not sure that it was the first use, but it's the first one I'm aware of, was when Chet Atkins was playing Snowbird. David Gilmour did it on Run Like Hell, which was on The Wall. Of course, I mentioned Albert Lee a moment ago, and along with Chet, those are the players that brought this onto my radar. When you're playing any piece of music at a certain tempo, and hopefully that tempo stays the same and is locked in, great time is so very important. You have what's established as one beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you break that beat into 2 parts, you have 8th notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. If you break that into 4 beats, you have 16th notes. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. And you can keep breaking the beat into different divisions. Triplets, triplet, 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 triplet. With the U2-ish guitar bag, it's often referred to as the 3/16 delay. Although when Albert Lee did it, it's more like a dotted chord delay. The method to the madness is actually the same. It's just that when Albert was doing it, he was double timing. And what's twice as fast as 3/16? It happens to be a beat and a half. Look at this graphic of a very basic rhythm. If you were to pick the first note of the first beat, not play anything on the next 2 16th notes, then play the last 16th note of beat 1, then not play the next 2 16th notes, and play the one after that, falling on the and of beat 2, you would begin to establish a pattern, and it wouldn't be 8th notes. If the tempo was 1, 2, 3, 4, and if you were playing 8th notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, but the delay was going, you would essentially have a polyrhythm. That's 2 different rhythms played at the same time. The whole idea of playing with the delay pedal and using it to create passages in time is really made a whole lot easier once you understand the basics of rhythm. Once you have that foundation, then you don't need to think about the math of it. You don't need to think about the science of it. You can dial things in if you have a tap tempo on your pedal, or just twiddle the knob until you find it. Because once it's no longer this vague, ambiguous thing, you can train yourself to just feel it. And at that point, then you can get into the mechanics of the left and right hand and how you're going to make the delay sound its best. There are a few fine details. But structurally speaking, once you understand it and have internalized it, the entire process is demystified. For example, if you're playing 8th notes on the guitar and you want the 3/16 delay, you just got to fill in the gap. Just turn that knob or tap it in if you're really good with your foot. I'm not going to show you my pedal board because you don't need to see it now that you understand how this works. And there's no digital readouts on any of my pedals. No delay. Rock and roll.
And now let's learn how to play a rock and roll rhythm. Rock and roll is very simple, just 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is rock and roll.
With the Albert Lee thing, I dialed this in the spur of the moment once, and I was using a tape delay unit with a slider on it that I just had to manually get to the right spot. You have to be super accurate, because if you make a mistake, it repeats the mistake. You were witness to the birth of Spinal Tap Mark II, and on the bass, Derek Smalls. The next thing is that you want to keep the notes short and staccato. It works very well with some palm muted notes, and it also works if you don't mute the notes but you keep them short and staccato. You don't want one note ringing into the other because then the effect goes away. See the problem? You gotta keep them short. You want the balance of the echo for the dry note to the repeated note to be about 50-50. If it's too low, the effect will fall apart. And if it's too high, the repeated notes will be effectively louder than the others, like you were accenting it. Although by far, if the mix knob is a little too high, that's probably better than being a little too low. And if you're not in good time, it'll sound like you fell down a flight of stairs. Which is also why you want to internalize the feel so that you can set the time knob at the right spot and get the desired outcome. You might be consistent in the right hand but not be working the delay right, and it'll still fall apart. No, you don't want that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You better internalize da, 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 and set your delay there. The most important thing is internalizing the feel so that you're not relying on the crutch of pedals that have toggle switches and looking up on the internet for a specific millisecond time. Too much analysis is paralysis. That's what I've got for you this time. And if you want to dive much deeper into the world of delays, watch this series next.